I'm so happy that you're here. We're going to be doing a clarity tool training. As we go through this training, I'm going to do my best to be concise. I'm going to do my best to be clear. And I want to frame this training off with the understanding that having clarity towards your goals, towards what you want to accomplish, is in fact the most important point to start when achieving anything. If you and I don't agree on that, then we're not going to agree on many other things. And it's probably best you save the rest of your time and you go do something else, because we need to have that fundamental understanding that clarity is the starting point of success. Having a clear desire, a clear vision, and a clear goal is ultimately how you create success. With that, this also explains why many people don't create success and create results that they want in their life. It's not because they're not capable, it's because they don't actually know what they want to create. This was something personally that I struggled with. I had a lot of ambition, I had a lot of drive, but if you asked me what was my goals, you would get vague answers from me. You would hear things like, well, I want to be successful, or I want to be rich, or I want to make more money, or I want to be happy. And although these may sound like good goals, they're vague, because here's the reality. When I say I want to be happy, what does that actually mean? When I say I want to make more money, what does that actually mean? And so vague goals all my life were getting me vague results. And it wasn't until I started to meet mentors who showed me, not told me, but they showed me through their actions and through their achievements that they created specific goals and then they went and accomplished them. And I actually invested in myself. I paid for mentoring from Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, two businessmen who are some of the best in the game of personal development and human development. And they taught me what it is I'm about to teach you. So I just want to frame that for the start of this. Now, let's go ahead and look at this. Who is this training for? Well, this training is for anyone that's lacking clarity right now, anybody that feels stuck. If you're underperforming, you feel like you should be further ahead in your life than where you are right now, or if you're just simply not happy with the results you're producing, this training is going to be for you. We're going to help you get unstuck. We're going to help you get clarity. We're going to help you start to perform at a higher level. I'm going to help you get further ahead in life so that you know that you are in the right place at the right time. And we're going to get you results that actually put a smile on your face. Now, what are you going to get? I kind of just mentioned it. You're going to get from this clarity on where you are, right? Objective clarity on where you are today, not the putting your head in the sand and ignoring your situation. You're going to get to know where it is you want to go. Believe it or not, this is one of the biggest issues. People don't know where they want to go. You're going to get to know what it is that you need to get there. So before the time this training is over, you're going to know exactly what it is that you need in order to get to your goal. And then you're also going to know what you need to focus on from a day-to-day aspect. Now, put simple, I'm giving you a roadmap to your own success. And that roadmap is going to look like this. It's going to be this clarity tool that I got here. So I'm going to share this on my screen because this is what we're going to go through. Now, if you're watching this training inside of our school, inside of my community, then there's going to be a PDF file that will accompany this training. If you're watching this training somewhere else, like on YouTube, hopefully I have it in the description below where you can get to the school and you're able to join the community and get that PDF, or there's even just a link to the PDF. So I want to make sure that you have the PDF. If you don't have the PDF, feel free to pause this video right now. Go download this PDF, get yourself a copy of this, print it out if you can, or put it in a way that you can type out the answers. You're going to want to keep and hold on to this for yourself, for your records. Let's jump right into this. When we talk about the clarity tool, I want you to think about this in terms of a GPS. I'm going to switch over here. Clarity is something like having a GPS. And for a GPS, what's the purpose of a GPS? GPSs are here to get us from where we are to where we want to be. And they work really efficient because they will guide us all along the way. They will give us turn-by-turn direction. They let us know what's coming up ahead. And it can get you from being in Long Island, New York, to getting to Los Angeles, California. And how's a GPS work? Well, in order for a GPS to give you directions, it first needs one critical piece of information. It needs your current location. And this is where we're going to start with our goals. So In this clarity tool, you're going to see I label the first bit of it the current status, aka your truth. This is the part where I want you to start to think about where are you in life right now. I'm talking the good, the bad, and the ugly. We need an objective location in order that we can give you the best directions on how to get to your goals. And so I broke it up into prompts to make this easy for you. And I'm going to share with you my current, my reality. And look at the date for a moment. This was what I wrote down in October of 2019. So I'm using an old clarity tool so that you can see how things worked out for me. Now, when I was being honest with myself, I had to answer where was I currently in life? And this was my honest truth about where I was in life. I was living at home with my mom and my sister. I was in a relationship with a woman who was 12 years older than me, and she had two kids. And I was not sure what my next steps were. I just knew what I wasn't doing, that what I was doing wasn't working at that time in my life. I mean, it was hard to sit there and bear that, but I mean, I didn't want to be living at home with my mom and my sister in my mid 20s. I barely could support myself, let alone support her. And that was just the reality. Like, I couldn't blink my eyes and pretend that that wasn't happening. It was. When I looked at my health, in the area of health, I was in great shape. I mean, I was as healthy as I ever was. However, I was starting to see that I couldn't rely on my youth forever. See, to give you a little bit of context, during that time in my life, I worked three jobs. I was working as a parkour coach, as a parkour instructor. So I would go out and physically teach people how to flip. I would spot people, spot kids. I was jumping and performing all the time. I was working in a restaurant where I was doing bar back work and kitchen work and waiting on tables. And then I was also cleaning auto zones at night. But a few years earlier, I had gotten an injury that showed me that my body may be physically injured and I might not be able to work and use it in the same way. So there were days that my body was hurting and I was sore and hurt from training and I wanted to be able to rest, but I couldn't. I had to go to work because I needed to earn money. From a finance standpoint, I was earning about $24,000 a year. I didn't have any debt, but I didn't know how to earn any more money. And everyone around me was in middle class. And this was tough because I wanted a bigger life, but it felt like no one around me could show me how to do this. From a relationship standpoint, I had great relationships. However, I couldn't afford to take care of myself, let alone my girlfriend and her kids. And it was starting to stress me out because internally it was making me feel like less of a man. In business, what business? I worked for someone else. I worked for three someone else's. So I didn't even have any control over my earning potential. I mean, I fought for a raise as a parkour coach, and I was the highest paid parkour coach in my business inside my building, and I was getting paid $15 an hour, right? Which was nothing. Now, when I would do private lessons, I was getting paid $100 an hour, which beat out the second highest coach was getting paid $60 an hour for private lessons. But even there, I wasn't making enough money. And then in the other areas of my life that matter to me, I was a full-time student going to college, getting ready to go to my graduate school for physical therapy. And I felt like I was living somebody else's dream. I was chasing after my parents' idea of success. And so what I want you to do right now is I want you to identify where you are currently. And I share with you where I was because as you can see, those aren't necessarily the things I want to tell people, right? I don't want to tell people that I didn't feel like a man. Right? Like that was embarrassing for me that I was dating this woman and I couldn't take care of her. I couldn't afford to move out of my mom's house. I was barely making enough money I mean, I was living below poverty. Like my income technically put me below poverty. And I lived in New York State, which is a very expensive place to live. And although those things weren't the highlight reels of my life, they were important for me to be able to clearly identify this is where I am today. It doesn't mean this is where I'm going to stay, but I needed to know where I was. So I want you to pause this video for however long you need to, have it be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you're going to fill it in for yourself. Once you're done filling it in, come back and we'll go into the next part. I'm going to keep going because I'm trusting that you're just going to pause the video and do this. If you're not going to pause the video, if you're not going to do this work right now, there is no reason to keep watching. Okay. I'm telling you right now, if you're driving, if you're listening to me while you're on the road and you don't have the ability to write, pause this video, save it for later when you have time to come back and do the work. This work is important for you to do, not just listen to. You're not going to get anything by just listening to me. You need to actually do the work. Okay. Let's keep going here. So as you see, I have here a second page. This is blank for you to fill in. Now, just like we said with the GPS, you establish your current location for the GPS in order that it can begin to give you directions. But after that, we need to establish where it is we want to go. And this is the part where a lot of people struggle. When you ask people, what is it that you want? Most people aren't used to being asked that question because, quite frankly, if you had a traditional upbringing, you were taught, take this information in and regurgitate it back to me when I ask for an answer later. And that's how we measured intelligence. That's how we measured success. And you weren't asked to be creative. No one asked you, what is it that you truly desire? Even if it didn't make sense, like you're just told, hey, go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go get a good education, get a good job, get a stable job, get a stable income, buy a house. You were told what to do, not asked for what you want. I'm going to be asking you right now, what is it that you want? And we're going to do something called the 1 year look back. And so the 1 year look back works a little something like this. I want you to imagine that a year goes by and you and I do not talk. You don't see me again. You don't engage with me on social media. You don't DM me. We do not have a conversation for an entire year. But 1 year from now, I do see you. And when we're seeing each other, we're catching up. We're excited to see one another. I say to you, oh my gosh, how's it been? And you say it's been great. And you start to explain to me what's been great about this year. Now, here's the thing. You just had the best year of your life. I mean, it was like the stars aligned, the moons aligned, serendipitous moments happened. Everything that needed to happen happened. What would that 1 year have looked like if you were being honest with yourself? If you were being realistic, like you put your head down for a year, you focused, and opportunities came your way. What would that year look like? And so I'm going to explain to you when I did this exercise, this is what I wrote down for my 1 year look back. So a year from now, what happens? Well, I had the greatest year of my life. I learned how to make more money than I ever made before, and I'm still able to get to help people. I began investing in real estate and I learned to make win-win situations. I traveled to new places and became friends with multimillionaires who helped me grow my podcast, and it really took off, helping countless strangers. From my health standpoint, I continued to stay in the best shape of my life. I progressed as an athlete, I hiked new mountains, and gained new mobility in my body. In my finances, I made over $10,000 a month wholesaling real estate and finally learned how to earn money. I earned more money than I ever earned before without needing to use my physical body. In my relationships, I was able to become the man that could support himself and his family. I made new friends who elevated me, and my relationship with my girlfriend only grew deeper. We learned how to have hard conversations and only grew stronger because of them. My business was able to support me and allows me to work virtually from anywhere. I'm able to hire people that not only build my dreams, but I'm also able to help them support themselves. And I've read at least 50 books throughout the year, and I'm proud to say that I applied the info from each of these books. I'm now one of those people that I always looked up to. Now, pay attention to this. When I wrote this, none of those things were true yet, but I wrote it in the way of it had already happened. So I want you to write this out for yourself. Like, notice how I read it. I spoke about it as if it were a past event that had already occurred. I already made the money. I already became the man. I already read the books. I want you to take a minute to write it out for yourself in the past tense, all the things that you already did. And as you speak it out loud, speak it with excitement, speak it with enthusiasm, as if you're not seeing a friend after a long time and you guys are catching up. So go ahead and pause this video and take a minute to do that right now. Awesome. Now that you have that written out and you have written it in the past tense, we're going to move on to the next piece. We all know that when we're going on an epic adventure and we are traveling, let's say, you've got the GPS on, you've got a current location, you've got a destination, but what else do you need for the journey? You need fuel. And in the case of setting goals, that fuel looks something like this. It's called your why. So, our why, I want you to think in terms of gas for a car. When do you need gasoline for your car? It's not when your car is on full. It's when the car is on empty. As you start this journey, in the beginning, you're going to be excited. You're going to have all the energy in the world. You're going to be motivated and stoked. But as you commit to the process, there will be inevitable days where your energy is just going to drop to a zero. Your motivation is going to drop down to a zero. And in order to stay in the race, in order to stay in the game and to get to your destination, you're going to have to tap into a fuel source. That fuel source is your why. And you've heard countless leaders talk about the importance of having a why. Well, let's look at this. You've got to know your why. And it's simple. I want you to write down why these goals are important to you. So when I wrote this back in 2019, I wrote these goals are important to me because my students are looking up to me as an example of what life can be. I want to show them that it's possible to have what you want and to earn it on your terms. I want to be a living example that they can come and seek wisdom from. I want to support myself and my future family. I want to know that while I am around, those that I care about will be protected and given the freedom to pursue their dreams. Again, I want to also show them a real life example of what it means to play the game of life with the mindset to win. I want to make my inner child proud. I want to know that if I traveled through a time machine and met my 10-year-old self, he'd be so excited to see who he grows up to be, that he grows up to be me. I want to prove to myself that I'll make the most with the time I have in this life. I'm curious as to what life has and the potential it has to be. I want to experience all that I can during this lifetime. And I know that the only way for me to lose is for me to not give it my all pursuing my dreams. If I want others to chase their dreams, I have to first chase mine. Guys, I wrote this 5 years ago before I knew any of the things that have happened to me would happen to me. And on the days that were hard, I thought back to my students. I thought about Paulie and Sean and Nick. I would sit there and see Owen on my mind. Like, these are kids I used to teach and how they had looked up to me and they were copying me. I didn't want them to live a life that was minimal, that was just surviving. I wanted them to be able to go after it. And so I had to become an example. So I want you to pause the video right now and take a minute to fill in for yourself. Why are these goals important to you? Okay. So assuming that you guys have done that already, let's get into this last piece. So this is the capabilities. So again, using the analogy of us going on an adventure, us having a GPS, we've got our current destinations, our current location, we've got the destination, and we now have fuel for the journey. But what's missing is the capabilities. Like, what are the things that we need in order to get through the entire journey, right? Like, I mean, if I'm doing a road trip from New York to California, I'm probably going to want some snacks in the car. I'm going to want radio. I'm going to want these different things for the journey to make it happen. And so on our journey to get to who we want to be and where we want to be, we got to think about what are the capabilities that we're missing currently. And the way I like to think about this is I look at it from the standpoint of, if I were to take that version of you 1 year from the future, who's already accomplished all the goals, and I were to bring them back in time to today, and I stood that version of you next to the current version of you today, what would we say are the differences between that person and who you are today? And when I did this for myself and I really thought about it, right, the version of me in the future that had accomplished the goals, I recognized he had a different set of skills. He had a different personality. He had a different swagger, if you will. And I wrote down, based on what I saw with him, the current version of me needed to learn how to communicate at a higher level. When I looked at 1 year into the future Marlon, his communication, he wasn't this shy, introverted human. He was much more bold, much more brazen in his communication. He wasn't afraid to make mistakes. He would just say what was on his mind, and he did it in a tactful way. I recognized that he understood how to invest money and identify growth opportunities. So he became a true investor. He learned about what it meant to be on the right side of Robert Kiyosaki's quadrant. I realized he learned how to sell, he learned how to make plans, and he learned the critical skill of marketing. He learned how to create systems. So he wasn't just a self-employed individual doing everything on his own. He created systems that ultimately made a business. He learned how to create discipline in his life. He learned how to prioritize action and take him close to his goals. So he recognized what's important to do and what's not important to do. He learned how to manage people. He got a lot better with people. He had great leadership skills and he had confidence in himself and his dreams, aka conviction. And so when I looked at the things that he had, I realized those are the things that the present me needed to learn and needed to begin practicing. And so it's interesting that you may be in whatever situation you're in today. Maybe your finances aren't where you want to be. Maybe you're not working the job you want to work. But if you were to look at the future version of you, and that version of you had to come back and live life through your body today, and they had to go to your job, and they had to talk to your girlfriend, and they had to go and spend time with your friends, how would that future version of you, how would they operate today? Would they have confidence and conviction? What would their communication skills look like? See, when you start to understand this, you can work on being that person today. Identify what are the gaps in skills and characteristics of that future version of you that's missing today, and begin to be that person today. So take some time, pause the video, and really get into the character of who you are 1 year from now if you accomplish all your goals. Identify the difference in skill, because these are going to be the things that you now know I have to focus on today. So what's next? The hard part is a lot of people just watched this video and they didn't actually fill in the worksheet at all. They didn't write anything down. They just thought about it. And here's the truth. If you're someone who just thought about it and you didn't write anything down, this was a total waste of your time. You're not going to accomplish anything. I would love for you to prove me wrong, but it just shows that if someone's not going to take the time to sit and answer these questions and to be fully present for this basic work, they're not going to have what it takes to build their business and to really accomplish their goals. For the people that did, right, and you're among the minority, if you took the time to really fill this out, you're part of the 10% of people who actually go on to achieve goals. What's next? Well, what's next is simple. Do the work, right? You identified a list of capabilities that you know the future version of you has. So now it's time to go and work on building those capabilities. Work on the communication skills if that's what you realize you need. Work on the sales skills or the marketing skills or the discipline. Whatever it is that you recognize the future version of you had, that's where you begin right now where you stand. That's what you begin to focus on. And here's my recommendation. Just take just one of those characteristics. And for the next 30 days, make an emphasis to work on that one thing in every moment of every day. While you're like, let's say it's communication. Be an intentional communicator for the next 30 days. Let's say it's discipline. Identify when you say discipline, what's that mean to you? Does it mean waking up at a certain time? Does it mean not scrolling? Whatever it means to you, identify what that thing is and begin to work intentionally at that one skill for the next 30 days. Just that one. I promise you, if you begin to do that, you're going to start to notice a change and you're going to understand what to do next. I promise you that. Now, if you need support and hands-on guidance, book a call with me. This is what I do. I guide people through making these transformations, through creating better habits and changing their self-image so that they can become that future version of themselves. You already identified what your goals are, but now you're identifying who it is you need to become. And if you need help with that, what I want you to do is go to action.mindsetmarlin.com. On there, you're going to fill out this application. You're going to put your name, your email, your phone number in. You're going to fill out this application and you're going to book a call with me. This call is totally free. On this call, we'll talk about what your goals are, where it is that you want to go, and who it is that you need to get there. I'll talk to you about supporting you, and we'll figure that all out on the call if it's a good fit for you. Now, those calls do book up quickly, so I would recommend you go there immediately because once the calendar is booked, the calendar is booked. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this training, and I'll see you soon.